Now, understand you began preaching at an early age,
Right.
but it's only later that you actually professionally become a minister. How'd that happen?
Well, in reality, I guess I've always been that. I mean, I was pastoring at 19, but I was also in school. I was also waiting tables at the Biltmore Hotel in Dayton, Ohio, and serving meals at the president's house and working in the cafeteria. So for me, it's always been ministry plus something else. The Bible talks about other things being added unto. When I left Ohio to go out to Lincoln as Associate Dean of Students, the reality is, out there I took a church. I was pastor Second Presbyterian in Westchester. When I got to Boston, I pastored a church in Newport, Rhode Island until the chaplain died and they asked me to be university chaplain. And so in every instance, when I was with Xerox, I was pastoring a church. When I was in Boston, I had a church also. And when I was in Congress, I had a church. So I've always ministered, and then everything else has been added unto. So I think that's been valuable for me.
But a day has to come because there's a period when you're a social worker.
I was a social worker, and I was also a minister.
But the social work was your profession.
That was what I was training for.
And a day has to come, though, when you decide, I'm not going to be a social worker.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be a minister.
Yeah. Well, actually, because my degree was in psychology, I was doing social work. But the reality, that day came when I was working in a halfway house in Philadelphia, and as a co-op student. And one of the patients in that house, and we were trying to transition people for work and life after being in Byberry State Hospital, or in Eastern Pennsylvania's Psychiatric Institute, and we would bring them into this halfway house. And when I went up to see a young man who had taken an overdose and realized that I could not possibly be a psychologist or social worker because I carried the burden of the people, and that kind of burden would probably ultimately destroy me. You do that in ministry as well, but there's a difference because you dare to believe that there is a possibility for cure and healing. In the other environment, the psychological environment, I did not get a sense after a while that you could heal everybody. And so for me, I think that was when I realized I was definitely going to seminary, and rather than going on and getting a master's in psychology, and that ministry was going to be a part of my life. But because I was in the AME church, I also said that I did not want to ever pastor full time. And so I tried to balance off this bivocational approach to life until the Lord just finally got me and forced me for at least a season to be full-time in ministry. But subsequent to that, I've always been bivocational.